Ladies and gentlemen, this morning we had a horrible, horrible disaster. In fact, last night, what am I saying? And people are talking about that. We will discuss, of course, the Guantanamo subject as promised. But what is going on right now in Washington, that area, in the Potomac, is so emblematic, and this is what I want you to understand, of how we work and how we supplement the news. Fox News, CNN, MSDNC, ABC, they are there merely to be given the information from NTSB, FAA, Trump administration. They read it. That's it. They read the information, and they have absolutely no interest whatsoever in saying, does this story make any sense? Is this because, remember, never believe the government about anything, ever, about anything, nothing. The government never tells you the truth. It is incapable of telling you the truth. And it's not because, and this may sound strange to you, not because they're necessarily mean-spirited or they're duplicitous. It's their nature never to treat you correctly because you are the enemy. You are the civilians. You're not to know this. I'm not trying to be cute about this. It's the truth. It's the way they are. You're not supposed to know this. Better that you not know. We don't want to give up tactics and that kind of stuff. We're not interested in that. It's better that you not know this. Better that you're not aware of what's going on. Better that, and believe me when I'm telling you this, my friends. I'm not one of these people who just says this. It's the God's honest truth. And what you're also going to find is there are people who are civilians who know so much about what's going on. And they're looking at this and they're saying, I was in the military. I was a Black Hawk helicopter. I was a commercial pilot, or I'm a private pilot. And this doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense. This is precisely what is happening as we speak. So we're going to be going through that. And also the other headlines, which are not mentioned. And let me say this again. And it's not always meant to slam them, but I want you to understand this, especially as Caroline Levitt, another, provides 700 or over new media. We're not new media. We are the media. They are the old media. I can't say this enough. Have you asked yourself the question, how was one of the most restricted air bases in the world not able to provide for, and we'll show you the film of a Black Hawk just going right towards it. A military Black Hawk that can maneuver, and you don't have to be an expert. There's something weird about this. Do you think Lawrence, what's his name, or Ainsley or somebody's going to say, wait a minute, does that make any sense to you? No. It is antithetical to look at this and to join with you as to what's suspicious. Same thing happened with Wuhan. Same thing happened during COVID. Same thing happened during 9/11. It always is. They don't have any suspicion. We're going to go through this very, very carefully. And the other news stories of the day. I want to thank you. I want to make sure you are absolutely guaranteed. Promise me that you are subscribed to Lionel Nation. Make sure you hit that little bell so you're always notified of live streams. Normally we do a 9 a.m., but today we have business, so we have to start a little earlier. So you always have to make sure you are aware of what's happening. And that means that you are subscribed. But before we get going, listen to this. New reports reveal that the average person has $8,674 in credit card debt. Plus, the total average consumer debt is a shocking $104,215 between mortgages, auto loans, student loans, credit cards, and unsecured loans. Unfortunately, without outside assistance, many will continue digging themselves deeper and deeper into the hole of debt. I've advised and counseled friends and clients for years who want to take back control of individual debt about this secret weapon that has helped so many consolidate everything owed into one affordable monthly payment. They even helped negotiate a settlement agreement that will allow you to pay less than the total balance. Listen, they settled over $275 million in debt, and they've helped people become debt-free in an average of 28 months. I've had such an incredible experience referring clients and friends that I wanted to partner with them here and introduce their services to you, my loyal Lionel Nation family. If you want a helping hand to get out of debt, I absolutely, positively, and strenuously recommend booking a free consultation now by going to nodebtwithlionel.com. Look at the address. Once again, that's nodebtwithlionel.com. Use the link I've provided under the title. Listen to me. You can take control and learn how to get out of debt now. Now, my friends, it's before we jump into this, I was just looking at various news outlets, X and Twitter and the usual suspects. And immediately people are saying this is something because of it. There were ice skaters on, there was a Russian connection, that this is somehow either an inside job, the usual things, without any information at all. The difference that I have is I certainly am not going to rule that out, but I don't go to it right off the bat because I don't know. I don't know. How is it that I can say this when I don't know? I don't go looking. Remember, when you hear hoof beats behind you, don't think zebra. Now, let me get right to the case. And first of all, I'll tell you that I have provided already a video, which this was made earlier this morning based upon the information that was provided to us, which I find most interesting. And I found it to be, there's a lot of things which I find are very, very interesting. And I always say this, remember, I want to be the most absolutely scrupulous when it comes to forming opinions. That is the link right there. So to go there, let's look and imagine you are a juror and I'm the plaintiff's lawyer and I'm putting on a negligence case. I represent, let's say, the family members or whatever it is, or it could be defense, either way. Let me show you this is what everybody seems to be looking at today. And by virtue of the magic of recording and the like, we see this. Now, this, as you notice, I want you to see something. This plane on the right is not, let me see if I move this over here, just to make sure we go, okay. This plane on the right, this flashing, that's not what you should be looking at. Now, you see the circle in the middle. You see that large kind of a sphere in the middle. The sphere in the middle is the plane. This is the passenger plane, we'll explain. And immediately to its left, you will see what appears to be the Black Hawk helicopter. Now just watch this. The plane there, the Black Hawk helicopter, you can only say to yourself, is bearing down on the plane. They're nowhere near each other. They're nowhere near. And it's coming right, look at this, coming right towards the plane. Look at this. Now, I'm not being conspiratorial, as the word goes. This is what I see. And then right now, bang. That's the evidence so far. One more time. Look at this right now. You are just, and remember, you don't know anything about communications, what the tower said. We don't know anything. But if you were just standing there, just looking up, and civilians are asked all the time to opine about car accidents. What did you see? Which way was the car going? It would appear to me, very, very simply put, right now, that there we go. There is this plane. Now, to the left, you see that little dot. That is a Black Hawk. At this point, they're nowhere near each other. At this point, the plane on the right is either moving, preparing to land, or whatever the particular, but it seems almost, for lack of a better word, almost frozen. Look to your left. Here comes a Black Hawk. Now watch this, coming right at it. Dead on course, and then tragically right now, there it is. Now, first question is, what do you think? What do you think? What's your take? And all I ask you is that before you think zebra, what are the questions you want to know? Let's say I have hired you to be a part of President Trump's NTSB group. We are looking at this. What are the information? What are the pieces you're going to want to know? What do you think? What do you think? What would you want? First of all, you need to hear what is, you need experts. Experts to come in and say, this is what I would do. What are the warning procedures? What did the tower say? What about on-board warning? Is if a plane or something is moving in, do they have any means of warning that would allow the passenger plane to try to move up or down or do something? We don't know this. It looks almost like it was a dead-on mission, like if I didn't know better. If I didn't know better, it looks like the Black Hawk is moving right towards it. We don't know. We see, well, who was on the plane? And there is a manifest. There is this. Now, let me give you the official story that was told. And always go locally. Locally is always the best because they don't have the chance to lie a lot. But regarding this accident, incident, what appears to be as follows. Let me see if I can get my information. And it's just so great. Just what civilians can know about this. But it seems that an American Airlines regional jet and a military Sikorsky H-60 Black Hawk collided midair last night, crashing into the, as you can imagine, they always say the frigid, the gelid Potomac River near Reagan National Airport, near it. Now, the midair collision, this is what people are saying, claimed dozens of lives with more than 30 bodies recovered so far. And they don't get the specifics as who was who. Emergency responders are continuing an extensive search and a search and recovery operations under, as you can imagine, some pretty harsh conditions, leaving many, many unanswered questions about how this tragedy could have occurred and whether it could have prevented. And this is, of course, what we need to know, okay? Now, see, somebody said just now, why a Black Hawk at a non-military airport? The question is it out of the ordinary? Is it irregular? That's the way to phrase it. You don't have any reason to believe. You don't know this is Washington. This is the most restricted airspace maybe in the world. With a thing called the White House in D.C. military might say, we do it all the time. The question to ask is that out of the question? Not, why was a military plane there? That implies you know something they don't. I'm not trying to be critical. I'm just saying this is the way people respond to things like this, okay? Very, very interesting. Now, the PSA Airlines Bombardier CRJ 700 regional jet. How about that for a specific? Operating as American Airlines Flight 5342, departed from Wichita, Kansas, and was on approach to runway 33. Notice how I'm showing you with my hand to let you know what a plane does when it lands. This is the kind of insight. I give you hand gestures like this. So they were moving into Reagan National Airport when the collision occurred around 9 p.m. local time. The plane carried 64 people, 60 passengers, and 4 crew members, while the helicopter had 3 military personnel on board. And that's, this could be changing now in terms of people recovered and the like. We don't know who they were. Maybe they don't want to let you know. Who knows? I don't want to get, all spooky about it. Now, initial reports confirm that fireboats and search and rescue teams are combing through the wreckage in terrible, windy, cold, dark situations. The quotes, this is according to the D.C. medical examiner, said, quote, "This is a massive recovery operation, the largest D.C. has seen in decades. There is a temporary morgue that was set up at the D.C. fire helipad, and it highlights, of course, the needless to say, the grim scale of disaster, with officials working throughout the night to try to retrieve victims' remains. While the impact of the tragedy extends internationally, with the deaths of Russian figure skating legends Evgenia Shishkova and Vadim Naumov, who were aboard the flight. The skaters, both coaches of Russia's national team, Russia, were returning from the U.S. figure skating championships in Wichita. Now, despite the recovery efforts, critical questions remain. Number one, how did this happen? Why wasn't the collision avoided, especially given the stringent air traffic control in Washington's highly restricted airspace? That's the question. The former NTSB investigator Alan Deal, apparently speaking elsewhere, expressed skepticism about the air traffic monitoring protocols. He said, quote, "This airspace is one of the most highly regulated and congested in the country. Pilots and controllers are supposed to be well trained for situations like this. It's surprising that something went so catastrophically wrong." Now, let me say this again. I am not an expert. I am a regular person who has common sense. That's all. When you see this, oops, two planes traveling, that's one thing. You were given this direction, it was too late. But here you have a plane that's coming in, and you have this Black Hawk almost like going after it. The Black Hawk can maneuver. The Black Hawk has some of the best avionics and radar and everything you can possibly imagine. How did that work? It's incredible. It's incredible. President Trump on Truth Social described the situation as one that, quote, "should have been prevented." I like this. He's not wishy-washy. He doesn't say, well, let's see what happens. We're not sure. It should have been prevented. And pointing to potential lapses in air traffic communication. He said, quote, "It's a clear night and the plane's lights were blazing." This is what he wrote, questioning why the helicopter didn't take evasive action. And his comments were echoed the sentiments of the family, who are questioning whether the FAA and local authorities have provided full transparency. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy just got in there, confirmed his role just a day before the crash, echoed the severity. This tragedy is touching everyone. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, he says, basically, and he's talking to President Trump and Pete Hegseth, as well as FAA, NTSB, and the Department of Defense. Now, more than 300 first responders from various agencies, including DC Fire and EMS, are and were participating in search and recovery operations, battling the water and the cold. DC Fire and EMS Chief John Donnelly admitted the conditions are extremely rough, but he remained hopeful that survivors might still be found. We still don't know yet. This was a while back. The crash caused widespread disruption, with Reagan National Airport closed until at least 11 a.m. today, and multiple road closures in the area. Flights were diverted to nearby Dulles International Airport, which, by the way, will be renamed the Trump International Airport before you know it, leaving many travelers stranded and authorities scrambling. Kansas Senators Jerry Moran and Roger Marshall, who both frequently traveled on the Wichita to D.C. route, were on site at Reagan National seeking answers. There's no question, they said, the people on this flight would be people that I know. Very, very sad. Wichita is a wonderful, very close-knit community. American Airlines CEO Robert Isom expressed the company's sorrow, describing the day as difficult for all of us at American Airlines. He emphasized that the airline's immediate focus is on the families, and Pete Hegseth confirmed that the Pentagon has launched its own investigation, given that the helicopter involved belonged to the U.S. Army and had previously been part of similar training missions. A 2017 crash involving a Black Hawk near D.C. killed one soldier and raised questions and concerns about training protocols, which likely will be scrutinized again as accident investigators commence. NTSB officials have launched a GO team, and early evidence will focus on flight path coordination and the like. So we'll see. Calls for prayer, and the usual Glenn Youngkin called for Virginia. Governor called for prayers and praised the swift response. And yeah. Muriel Bowser, worthless, Soros-esque D.C. mayor, described the situation as heartbreaking. Thank you so much for that. I mean, what is she supposed to do, for God's sake? And as the search continues and investigators begin to work, the public remains hopeful that transparency will prevail. Okay, now, a lot of folks are still saying, this doesn't make sense. We will see. Now, what do? I immediately say, turn off all cable. Watch cable TV if you want. They're great on pictures. Just turn, if you have to do it, or on your iPad, just turn the sound off. Their information means nothing. They're going to pick up the phone, go to their quote Rolodex. Give me somebody. Who do we have? We have retired air pilots. Good. Get them on. Is Sully? Anybody know Sully? Get Sully on. And they're not going to say shit about anything because they're not going to do anything to compromise their own standing. They're not going to know anything. Now, I said, Sully, looking at this right now, here's a plane. Here comes a Black Hawk. Do I have to? Am I missing something? Black Hawk, avionics, telemetry, radar, you name it. More intel is used in it's military. It's supposed to be able to turn and veer and bank and get out of the way and land. And it basically goes after a plane. Am I missing something? I don't know. I'm not saying. Listen to what I am telling you. Never dismiss your initial That is what creates probable cause, prima facie. That's what every good detective thinks. It's like, this doesn't make any sense. Last night, Mrs. Ellen and I were watching this great documentary on the fall of Diddy. And as we were watching various people not testify, but provide their information, you could tell that one's telling the truth. I knew it. She's telling the truth. By virtue of your life, you're having met some of the greatest liars and BS artists of all time, you know what does and doesn't make sense. So that is part of today's story, my friends, part of today's news. But let's go through some of the other stories, which I think are important. Trump's massive deportation plan launched. This, my friends, is one of the greatest pieces of news ever. President Trump initiated what he describes as the largest deportation operation in history. It's got to be the largest because we're a huge country And yes, this has been done before, but not at this level. They're targeting illegal immigrants with criminal records. The operation has already led to the arrest of hundreds and ultimately thousands across sanctuary cities. That is going on. Next, Guantanamo Bay set to house migrants. Do not confuse Guantanamo Bay, the base, Camp Delta, whatever it is, with the prison. Completely different. In a move that will cause many folks' blood to roil and boil, I should say, President Trump ordered Guantanamo Bay to be prepared for 30,000 criminal illegal aliens. This is the first step to securing our nation from the globalist invasion. Unprecedented, perfect. Next, illegal immigrants arrested in Newark raid. And we're seeing this everywhere. ICE raided a local spot in Newark, as they say here, NERC. It's just interesting. You can hear New Jerseyans pronounce Newark differently, as opposed to Delaware, which is pronounced Newark. Anyway, they detained both undocumented illegal aliens and citizens, raising questions about overreach and rights violations. Isn't that interesting? They're worried about overreach and rights violations, but nobody cared about the overreach and rights violations regarding Laken Riley. There will be problems. And let me just say, ladies and gentlemen, if you are finding yourself in the position of being kept, swept up, contained, arrested, detained, whatever it is, blame the Biden administration and the hosts and the teams of thousands of individuals who have been a part of this nonsense and are making you pay for this. Do you understand this? Next, the DC crash. A lot of folks are asking and suggesting there's more to this than meets the eye. Many people have asked, for example, was this crash orchestrated, planned, MIHOP, whatever, to shift focus from the Biden administration's failures? This is always the obfuscation theory. The truth is out there, but the question is, who's looking? Next, with crime rates linked to illegal aliens and the like on the rise, Trump's mass deportation plan might be just what's needed to restore law and order. And when you hear people talk to you about how our produce and how the farms and the poultry factories and citrus and produce pickers and people who clean your fish, the people that we are talking about, the illegals, Tren de Aragua, MS-13 and others, the Venezuelans, the Guatemalans, the bad guys, they go to major cities and urban hubs, not to Ruskin, Florida to pick maters or to some little Popeyes outlet to wash dishes. No. We're not talking about that. They're confusing. They love to paint with a broad brush. Next, may I add something tonight, which is one of the funniest? Nora O'Donnell says goodbye, and the numbers go up. They've got two dudes, I don't know who they are, and their numbers went up. I want to ask you a question, and I'm going to ask you a question. Do you think Americans would listen more to a news program with two men or a man or a woman? Not any man, not Don Lemon not Fredo Cuomo. No, no, no. I mean a man, a real legitimate kind of a gravitas, not somebody trying to confuse and distract you with their hotness or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. There may be something to this, which nobody will discuss. Sports people have known, sports have said that sports fans will listen more to a team of men speaking, usually ex-athletes themselves, but men than women. Even with tennis and sports that have women as well. Is there something? Do men? I'm asking a question. Do men provide more of a gravitas? Would you like to hear more men like the old Bill Butells and Roger Grimsby and locally? Is there something about this? If there was a Cronkite, who do we have today? Steve Ducey? Brian Kilmeade? Jake Tapper? No. But if they were not just men, but men who have... This is a subject that nobody is ever going to address, but you know the answer. The next, sanctuary cities are on the defensive as ICE operations expand. Trump's administration is showing no mercy, and it's about time. This is beyond huge. Regarding Trump's plan to deport to Guantanamo, the New York Post reports that the decision to use Guantanamo Bay for deportations could redefine what it means to secure our borders. Critics are up in arms, of course, but the silent majority clears. Think about this. And right after Trump's deportation goes live, we have a major crash in D.C. airspace. Now, most probably, is this a coincidence of some sort? We don't know. No way to tell. Just tuck that away. And while some cry about human rights, the economic benefits of President Trump's deportation strategy could be absolutely substantial, potentially saving billions and billions in public services. Think about this. Fox reports and others have said that despite Democratic outcries, President Trump remains steadfast in his mission to deport illegals, showing leadership like you cannot believe. And it gets better and better. Now let's go to some other stories which are very important for you too. And I'm looking at my list here that I have provided. Going back to the DC, the latest I have with that, something doesn't add up. What really caused the DC plane crash? What do you think is really, what's responsible? What is this really about? Now, there are some of us, as you know, and I'm going to say this to you, and I say this with all due respect, there are some of us who tend to be more attuned to the possibility of there being something suspicious than others. And I think that's part of our collective genius, ladies and gentlemen. We have seen this before. Everything that people said about Wuhan and whatever, it all turns out to be right. We will always be vindicated, guaranteed. Did the military helicopter carry top secret cargo? Whistleblowers are hinting perhaps at classified documents on board military helicopter before the collision. The witnesses are speaking out. We heard explosions before the clash. Expert or eyewitness testimony is raising questions about whether there was sabotage or a cover-up. Follow this one. What do the witnesses hear? What did they hear? Remember that flight, TWA Flight 100? They saw this. Boom. And they said, no, it was the rings of it. People out there in Norwiches, seeing this. I'll put my money on them. Joe Biden's Pentagon is in panic mode. Were they hiding key surveillance tech? Theories are emerging linking the helicopter crash to CIA spy equipment failures. And also, Trump was right. The Democrats ignored safety standards before the crash. FAA insiders reveal negligence during the Biden administration. So all of this, ladies and gentlemen, all of this is boiling and roiling. It's becoming fascinating as we speak. Let me also stop and tell you, my dear friends, that right now, tomorrow is the last day of the month. And that's why it is so important, so critical, so monumentally necessary for you to go to preparewithlionel.com. Shop now, right now, with all of this going on. 4-week emergency food supply, $50 off, plus 6 free bonuses. When is that wake-up call going to finally get your attention? When? And by the way, the latest that I've seen, which they're adding on, which is the most fascinating, EMP protection systems. Electromagnetic pulse, Carrington class blast that will fry everything in your system. They have every conceivable piece of equipment, preparation device, from water filtration to candles. I love this 100-hour candles. They look like little grenades. Waterproof matches, water filtration, and food. And don't forget one more thing, my friends, as we always say. Are you ever tired of luxury? Do you ever tire? Bolster pillows. This is what I love about mypillow.com promo code Lionel. These little fine-tuned. You ever get the pillow and you gotta fold it. It's too big or your head goes back. These little bolsters, they're like little bumpers. Like when you dock a boat, you put it right by, and they're perfect. That's what I love. MyPillow.com promo code Lionel, the great, the inimitable, the ineffable Mike Lindell is there. Ladies and gentlemen, do yourself a favor and support this great, glorious, and wonderful, wonderful man. And MyPillow.com promo code Lionel, or MyPillow.com/Lionel, and preparewithlionel.com. Now, let's go for some other news. Look at this. Let's talk about the next story, Trump's deportation crackdown. Okay. Guantanamo overflowing with illegal aliens. Deportation surge breaks records. 1,200 illegal aliens sent to Guantanamo in 24 hours. The largest deportation operation in U.S. history gains momentum, and the Democrats are thinking, holy shite. The worst criminals in America, Guantanamo to house, these are the headlines, 30,000 violent illegal aliens. Trump's plan brings swift justice to illegal gang members and predators. Next headline, MS-13 leaders captured. Trump's ICE agents win major battle against cartel infiltration. Sanctuary city raids exposing massive gang operations in the U.S. It's incredible. Next headline, Guantanamo. The left hates it because, why? Because it works. Why housing illegal criminals in Cuba, in Trump's latest plan, is the most brilliant Trump plan ever. The Dems are melting down, freaking out, as Trump prepares to double ICE raids nationwide. This is going on. The hysterical responses from liberal leaders are fueling conservative resolve. We know we are right by virtue of the screaming and the yelling from these folks. Next, Protecting America, this great headline, this section, exclusive reports on Democratic failures. Headline, Biden's asylum disaster, how Democrats created the border crisis Trump now has to fix. Scathing looks at 4 years of failed policies. Next headline, illegal alien who killed American teen had prior deportation order under Biden's DHS. Disturbing new revelations from ICE show preventable crimes. Next headline, Trump restores border wall construction after Biden's $6 billion waste. Progress resumes, my friend, under MAGA 2.0 as wall reinforcements begin as we speak. Next, Kamala Harris silent on deportation surge. Has she given up defending open borders? Political insiders are speculating on why she refuses to comment. I always say laziness. I always say it has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that she's a sloth. Next, Trump versus the deep state. RFK Jr., Biden, and the battle for America. Isn't this wonderful? Don't you feel enlivened today? Headline, RFK Jr. versus Senate Democrats. A heated showdown that left the woke left in tatters. Bobby exposed corruption in big pharma, gaining unexpected allies. And had it not been for this stupid hearing, which was designed to destroy Bobby Kennedy, Americans would have not known about some of the stuff that he brought up for the first time. Headline, Trump was right again. New revelations prove deep state infiltrated COVID response. Leaked memos show coordination between health officials and political operatives. This is what we knew. We've been saying this forever, but the country's learning this now. Next, Biden administration's secret meetings with Chinese officials uncovered in leaked email dump. Various media sources, not on Fox News, not on CNN, not on Newsmax, nope. Other fabulous, Zero Hedge and others, wonderful site, reveals shocking ties between Hunter Biden and CCP representatives, because he, my friends, was a spy, a traitor who was compromised and used. Fauci and the CDC under fire. GOP investigations point to manipulated COVID-19 data. We know this. Bobby knew this. House Republicans prepared to subpoena key health officials. So what they did, my friends, is by virtue of having this stupid attempt at trying to expose and make Bobby look bad, they now make everybody aware of what's happening. Oh my God. Hoist by their own retard. Global tensions and national security. I love this. Trump warns of potential military conflict as China amasses troops near Taiwan. Pete Hegseth prepares contingency plans. My friends, I was watching the great Jeffrey Sachs, and he asked a question. How many times has China been in a war in the past 40 years? Answer, nothing, none. The last time was in 1979 for 1 month between January 16th, I believe, and February the 16th. China conducted it was about Vietnam over some territory or critical installation or something. 1 month, 1979, I believe. That's it. I know everybody wants to keep an eye on China. This is where Sachs and Mearsheimer are really, there's a very interesting thing. They are to be watched, but I do not want to engage them in war. Next, headline, Cuban dictator slams Trump's deportation plan as brutal, but America says good riddance. The public opinion, ladies and gentlemen, overwhelmingly supports the tough measures against what is going on. Do you see what's happening? Do you get this? I want you to sit back and just think. It has been 10 days since since the greatest president in my lifetime has been sworn in. 10 days. Can you believe what you're seeing right now? Could you believe this? Are you following this? This is the most incredible thing I have ever seen. You are going to see an absolute avalanche. That 4 years are going to be transformative. The attitude. And the best part about this, listen to what I'm saying. President Trump is not pretending as though he has to, how do I say this? He is not pretending as though he has to always cite or that he always has to defend the military, defend the government. No. This is a guy who knows flat out, absolutely flat out, how absolutely horrible these people are. How absolutely horrid this government and the deep state can be. This is exactly the guy that we're looking for right now. And let me also tell you again, my friend, what you are seeing is something which is so important. As we speak, check out National Review. They hate Bobby Kennedy. National Review. Fox News, they can't stand Bobby Kennedy because they have this vaccine. They are so connected. Look at the money. Look at the advertising. Look at the revenue. Bobby Kennedy, whatever you say, has been linked and connected as being the anti-vaccine person, and he is not. Bobby Kennedy's best line was, he says, I'm against mercury in fish. I'm not against eating fish. He has said this repeatedly. He said his children were vaccinated. It's not about vaccinations. He never said, I'm against Pasteur. I'm against immunology. I'm against. No, he never said that. I would have said, Bobby Kennedy, I would have had him repeat 50 times. I never said I was against vaccine. I never said I was against vaccine. I never said, and have them say enough. Say, no, I don't think you're hearing me. When have I ever said that? Why is your fixation on vaccines? I've just told you, people, about red dye number 3, about obesity rates and diabetes rates. Why is it? Why do you show no concern whatsoever as to what is happening? What is the matter with you? Where did you ever come from? How did you ever get the idea? Where? Hold them. Say, tell me where. Did your staff, like that warlock from Georgia, they just handed them this information? And there are people that I know who believe to this day either that Bobby Kennedy said they're against vaccines, or that I've said that. I've never said. Is there anybody here who does not believe that vaccines work? That the idea that a vaccine doesn't work, that when you give a weak or a dead, let's say, version of something, not mRNA, that's a different story, but an old-fashioned, you give them a dead virus, inert. You give it to them, harmless. Your body says, wait a minute, there's that thing again. And it builds up antibodies and basically turns off that virus molecule's ability to infiltrate. Anybody have any doubt in that? Do you think that doesn't make any sense? Do you think that doesn't make any sense? Do you think so? We're not talking about gain of function. I'm not talking about Ukraine biolabs. I'm asking, does anybody, do you believe that? If you honestly do not believe, if you think there has never been a connection, there is absolutely no medical evidence whatsoever as to the efficacy of a vaccine, you're out of your mind. You simply don't know anything about this. You have conflated or confused Wuhan or Fauci or something, or you've confused unnecessary, untested, but fine. But do not confuse yourself. And let us remember something, my friends. Ladies and gentlemen, it is important now that you don't lose your mind. Don't jump into the thing that says, I'm in the scrum. I'm going to type in something. I'm going to go into it and I'm going to type, they all want us dead. Yeah, no, there's no. Please let us never sound as crazy as I think some of us are. There are some people I've met in this world who they just make this up. The Georgia Guidepost, they want to set depopulation and Bill Gates. I said, wait a minute, stop. I'm not ruling that out. But some people are so into the procedure. Let me give you an example. There are people that I know in my life as a retired Catholic. I've seen them in church. They get so much into the whole thing. They wear the mantilla and they do this. And I remember all of a sudden they did this. I remember I went to a church. What are they doing? This is the Our Father. Why are they doing that? I don't know. Or they do this, or they're into the Corpus Dei, or they whatever it is. They love more of the procedure than they do the actual underlying philosophy. Pilgrim says Tuskegee syphilis study and COVID. What's different? Please do me a favor. Do you think, Pilgrim, and I love you, do you think we have hit the saturation point of the Tuskegee syphilis study? Do you think, I'm just curious, do you find we've said, all right, okay. Do you think it's time for us to maybe back off a little bit of MK Ultra, Operation Paperclip, but whatever it is? Do you think we sometimes in our group get to the point where we have this like a quiver, like a little satchel, and we say, have I mentioned Operation Ajax lately? No. How about Mockingbird? Okay, there you go. Operation Mockingbird. Okay. Operation Artichoke. That's my favorite. That's from MK Ultra. Anybody mention that? Okay. HARP. We mentioned HARP. There's nothing to do with weather. Mention HARP anyway. Mention DARPA. Mention, whatever it is. Do you think that sometimes we don't really listen to what's going on, but we want to just show everybody else how much we know? Well, I know about this. Well, of course, there was an operation. Well, there was Operation Mongoose. We love operations. Well, the nanotechnology. Eating bugs and you'll have nothing. And let's cite. Do you know this? Do you think sometimes not enough of us listen as to what's going on? Do you think that sometimes? And I'm asking you a question. How many of you believe that sometimes our particular vantage come across as being lunatics because we will always immediately go first, never allowing. I did something yesterday. I said something about Bobby Kennedy. It was in the newsletter. I hope you got something to the effect of people will invariably look to something subversive versus is competent. Do you think this? Do you think this? I think so. I'm not a member of the conspiracy group. I'm not. I don't know. I oftentimes say, well, there may be something to that, but I don't understand. I get in trouble the same way with religious people. I think it's like there is no evidence of this. It doesn't matter. It's faith. Well, there are a lot of sometimes people, I believe, in the conspiracy, and I'm using this term just very loosely. I think theirs is almost a faith as well. I really do. It's like a fad, a belief, a something. It's a really the other day I was talking to a good friend of mine, Mark Simone. Mark Simone believes, and I think he's the best terrestrial talk show host around. The only one that I ever even listened to. And when it comes to what's going on in New York, there's nobody better. But Mark believes that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone. And I said, I think there's overwhelming evidence of a conspiracy. Overwhelming. Now, I can't tell you who or why or whatever it is, but and there are people, his whole thing is, I am telling you that, and in a way, sometimes people, don't kid yourself, will say something a bit abstruse in order to get attention. Pilgrim says, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. You're great, Mr. L. No, I don't even know what being wrong is. Nobody's being wrong, but we've done terrible, terrible things. Remember when the Supreme Court basically came, what was the Supreme Court case that provided for sterilization? Oh, look at this. How about that Vegas shooting? Leave it to Lori Partridge. And by the way, Lori, airline crashes, plane crashes, Russians. The Vegas shooting was the most important because nobody ever got to the bottom of it. Nothing. They just stopped talking about it. They stopped talking about it. 9/11 is still the best of them all. That's the best. And Bobby Kennedy's talking about geoengineering and what you would call chemtrails. No, I know there's something to be said for that. Now, I can't tell you why, who is it. All you got to do is say, you see that? Yeah, that's, and they've said it. It's solar radiation management, carbon dioxide removal. I know that. I don't know why. Is it the Rothschild? Is it the World Bank? I don't know. That's when people get off the bus and they just start going on their own journey. I don't know why. I don't know. We don't know. Who was behind it? Larry Silverstein. Pull it. Was he? Prove it. There's no evidence of that. Looks suspicious as hell, but I don't go around saying I'm a suspicionist. No, I'm a proofer. Not a truther, I'm a proofer. In any event, dear friends, thank you so much. Lori Partridge, we miss you, darling, especially you and your wacky love of Russian dash cam plane. Why you would have a dash cam plane? Maybe I'm misquoting this. In any event, Pilgrim Media, dear friend, thank you so much for your thoughts and consideration. All right, dear friends, remember, Lionel Nation, go see my video this morning, right now as we speak, the video from this morning. Always remain subscribed. Make sure you are subscribed. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious day. Remember, always trust your suspicion, but suspicion does not equal proof. That keeps you going. That's a motivator. That's what says, keep going, keep going. I don't buy this. That doesn't make sense to me. We're not done yet. Big difference. All right, dear friends, have a great and a glorious and a beauteous day. Don't ever change a meaning that sincerely. And until we meet again, remember these words. The monkey's dead. Show's over, sue you. Dead.